In the heart of Florida, amidst the sprawling wetlands and sun-drenched landscapes, a secret lay dormant for millennia. A secret that would challenge our understanding of history and redefine the very notion of a cold case. It all began, as so many great discoveries do, with an accident. Picture this: a construction crew, just like any other, going about their daily routine. Heavy machinery humming, the air thick with the smell of freshly turned earth and the promise of new development. They were clearing land, preparing the ground for the foundations of what would soon become a bustling suburban neighborhood. Little did they know, their shovels and bulldozers were about to unearth something far more significant than they could ever imagine. As the excavator dug deep into the earth, its metal teeth tearing through layers of soil and sediment, the operator noticed something unusual. It wasn't the typical debris of modern life, the discarded plastic or stray pieces of metal that often marred construction sites. This was different. A solid, rounded object emerged from the muck, its surface dark and stained by the surrounding earth. Initially, the operator dismissed it as a large rock, perhaps an anomaly in the otherwise sandy terrain. But something about its shape, its texture, seemed off. Curiosity piqued. He paused his work, hopped down from the machine, and cautiously approached the strange object. Kneeling in the damp earth, he brushed away the clinging soil, revealing more of its form. It was then that the realization struck him with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a rock. It was a skull. A human skull. The discovery sent a ripple of unease through the construction site. Work ground to a halt as the crew gathered around, their initial curiosity quickly giving way to a sense of solemnity and apprehension. Whose skull was this? How long had it been buried here? The immediate assumption, naturally, was that they had stumbled upon a relatively recent crime scene. Perhaps the remains of a victim whose fate had been shrouded in secrecy for years, or even decades. The local authorities were immediately notified, and the site was quickly cordoned off. The police arrived, their faces grim and professional. Crime scene tape fluttered in the breeze as they began their initial investigation, meticulously documenting the scene and collecting evidence. The first priority was to determine the identity of the deceased and to ascertain the circumstances surrounding their death. Was this a case of foul play, a tragic accident, or something else entirely? But as the medical examiner arrived and carefully examined the skull, a subtle shift began to occur in the atmosphere. The initial assumptions, the tidy narratives of a modern cold case, started to unravel. The medical examiner, a seasoned professional with years of experience in identifying and analyzing human remains, noted something peculiar about the bone. It wasn't the color or texture typically associated with recently deceased individuals. Instead, the skull exhibited a deep, almost fossilized quality, its surface darkened and weathered by the passage of time. "This isn't recent," he declared, his voice carrying a weight of authority. "This skull has been buried here for a very, very long time." His words hung in the air, prompting a stunned silence among the assembled investigators. The implications were staggering. If this wasn't a modern crime victim, then what was it? Forensic tests were swiftly conducted, and the results confirmed the medical examiner's suspicions. Carbon dating revealed the skull to be thousands of years old. Not decades, not centuries, but millennia. This was not a contemporary cold case. This was something far older, far more significant. The discovery transformed the construction site into an archaeological site almost overnight. The police, recognizing the historical importance of the find, stepped aside, handing over the investigation to a team of archaeologists and anthropologists. The team, led by a renowned expert in prehistoric human remains, arrived with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They understood the immense potential of the discovery, but also the delicate nature of the task ahead. This was an opportunity to glimpse into the distant past, to learn about the lives and customs of people who lived in this region thousands of years ago. As the archaeologists began to carefully excavate the surrounding area, they made an even more startling discovery. The single skull wasn't an isolated find. It was just the tip of the iceberg. Buried beneath the layers of earth and sediment lay a vast, ancient burial ground, a prehistoric cemetery that had remained hidden for over 8,000 years. This was no ordinary archaeological site. It was a time capsule, a window into a world that had vanished from memory, and it was about to rewrite the history books. The potential cold case had suddenly turned prehistoric, opening up a whole new realm of possibilities and mysteries. Beneath the sun-drenched skies of central Florida, a landscape dotted with citrus groves and shimmering lakes, lies a hidden world. For millennia, secrets slumbered beneath the murky waters of what locals simply called Windover Pond. But what began as a seemingly ordinary construction project would soon peel back the layers of time, revealing a Stone Age burial ground of unparalleled significance. As the initial shock of the skull discovery subsided, the investigation transformed into a full-blown archaeological excavation. But there was a problem. Windover wasn't just a site, it was a functioning swamp, a tangled ecosystem teeming with life, stubbornly resisting the archaeologists' trowel. To reach the treasures that lay beneath, a daring plan was hatched. Imagine this, a colossal undertaking, a Herculean effort to drain the swamp. For 2 long years, the air hummed with the drone of machinery. Industrial well points, hundreds of them, were driven deep into the boggy earth, like metallic straws sucking the lifeblood of the marsh. Pumps roared, tirelessly extracting millions of gallons of water, slowly but surely lowering the water table and revealing the hidden world below. The moment the water receded, the true scale of the discovery became breathtakingly clear. This wasn't just a single burial. It was a sprawling cemetery, a necropolis of the Stone Age stretching across the exposed landscape. A sea of human remains, carefully arranged, eerily preserved, stretched out before the stunned archaeologists. Bodies lay everywhere, each a silent testament to a life lived thousands of years ago. Men, women, children, even infants, all meticulously placed in their final resting positions. The arrangement was hauntingly consistent. Each body curled tightly in a fetal position, arms wrapped protectively around their knees, a posture of vulnerability, perhaps, or a symbolic return to the womb, the ultimate source of life. But what truly set Windover apart was the remarkable state of preservation. The bones, instead of being brittle and decayed, appeared almost fresh, as if these individuals had been laid to rest just a few decades ago, not millennia. The team quickly realized they were dealing with something exceptional. The secret, they discovered, lay in the peat itself. This dense organic soil, formed from decomposed plant matter, created a unique chemical environment. Its low oxygen and high acidity acted as a natural preservative, inhibiting the bacteria that normally cause decomposition. The bodies, shielded from the ravages of time, were essentially frozen in a prehistoric time capsule. Sharpened wooden stakes, remarkably preserved alongside the bodies, offered another crucial clue. These stakes had been driven through the burial wrappings, anchoring the bodies to the bottom of the bog. A deliberate act, perhaps intended to keep the spirits from wandering or to ensure their connection to the earth. But amidst this trove of astonishing discoveries, a peculiar anomaly began to emerge, a nagging detail that sent shivers down the spines of the archaeologists. As they carefully lifted the skulls from the clinging peat, they noticed something unusual. "This feels heavy," a technician remarked, his brow furrowed in confusion. It seemed baffling. Ancient skulls are typically fragile, lightweight, hollowed out by the relentless passage of time. But these skulls, they had weight. They felt dense, substantial, as if something was still inside. Initially, the team dismissed it as a fluke, a variation in bone density. But as they unearthed more skulls, the same sensation persisted. Heavy, dense, unexplainably weighty. A sense of mounting unease settled over the site. Driven by a growing curiosity, the researchers decided to investigate further. Using advanced endoscopic equipment, tiny fiber optic cameras capable of navigating the smallest openings, they peered inside the cranial cavities. What they saw defied all expectations. At first, the interior appeared to be filled with peat, the dark fibrous soil that had enveloped the bodies for millennia. But this wasn't ordinary peat. It wasn't dry and crumbly, the kind of sediment you'd expect to find filling the void left by decomposed tissue. This was something different, something organic. A decision was made to send one of these enigmatic specimens to the University of Florida for a more in-depth examination. There, using MRI scans, a technology normally reserved for living patients, they peered into the skull's interior with unprecedented detail. The results were nothing short of earth-shattering. Inside the skull, where scientists anticipated empty space or inert sediment, they saw a distinct mass. It wasn't stone. It wasn't plant matter. The scans revealed intricate folds, complex ridges, a pattern that was undeniably familiar. It resembled the gyri and sulci, the characteristic folds of a human brain. The scientists froze, their breath caught in their throats. They were staring at a human brain. An 8,000-year-old human brain. The atmosphere in the laboratory transformed, a sense of reverence washing over the room. Scientists and technicians alike leaned in, their eyes wide with disbelief and awe as they gazed upon this impossible relic of the past. This discovery wasn't just extraordinary. It was unprecedented. It was a miracle of preservation. The bog hadn't just protected bones. It had preserved the very essence of human thought, the seat of consciousness frozen in time for 8 millennia. This was a gateway to the minds of our ancestors, a portal into a world long gone. Secrets within the skull. Scientists extract and analyze the ancient brain tissue, recovering DNA that reveals family connections, ritualistic practices, and a mysterious death, rewriting history. The lab buzzed with anticipation. Years of painstaking excavation, preservation, and analysis had led to this moment. Could they unlock the secrets held within these ancient brains? The initial steps were delicate, almost surgical. Using specialized micro-tools, the scientists carefully extracted minute samples of the preserved brain tissue. Each fragment, no bigger than a grain of rice, represented a potential treasure trove of information. The first challenge, separating the actual brain matter from the surrounding peat and mineral deposits that had infiltrated the tissue over millennia. It was a bit like trying to untangle a spider web made of mud and history. Specialized enzymes were used to gently dissolve the extraneous material, leaving behind the fragile remnants of the brain cells themselves. Then came the real hurdle, attempting to recover DNA. The scientific community held little hope. DNA, notoriously fragile, was thought to degrade beyond recognition after only a few hundred years, especially in warm, humid environments like Florida. But the unique conditions of the Windover Bog offered a glimmer of possibility. The acidic, oxygen-deprived environment, combined with the bog's naturally cooling effect, might have slowed the decomposition process enough to preserve fragments of genetic code. Under the watchful eyes of Dr. Aaron Mitchell, a leading expert in ancient DNA, the lab team meticulously prepared the samples for analysis. They used a technique called polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, to amplify any remaining DNA fragments. PCR is like making a Xerox copy of a single strand of DNA, and then making copies of those copies and so on, until you have enough material to analyze. The results were nothing short of astonishing. Against all odds, they found it. DNA. Fragmented, yes, but undeniably present. The collective gasp in the lab was almost audible. But simply finding DNA wasn't enough. The real challenge was sequencing it, determining the precise order of the genetic building blocks that made up the individual's unique blueprint. This required advanced sequencing technology and countless hours of computational analysis. Piece by piece, like assembling a prehistoric jigsaw puzzle, the scientists began to reconstruct the ancient genomes. And what those genomes revealed was utterly transformative. First, they confirmed the ancestry of the Windover people. The DNA clearly showed that they were Native Americans, descendants of the first populations to migrate across the Bering Land Bridge from Asia thousands of years before. This wasn't entirely surprising, but the level of detail was unprecedented. The genetic markers revealed specific haplogroups, genetic populations of people who share a common ancestor. But the revelations didn't stop there. The DNA also revealed close familial connections within the burial site. By comparing the genetic profiles of different individuals, the scientists discovered that many of them were closely related: mothers, fathers, siblings, and cousins. Windover wasn't just a cemetery. It was a family plot, a place where generations of a single lineage had been laid to rest together. This discovery painted a poignant picture of a tightly knit community, deeply connected by blood and tradition. It suggested that family ties were of paramount importance in their society, influencing everything from burial practices to social structure. And then came the most unexpected and profound revelation of all: insights into the ritualistic practices of the Windover people. By analyzing specific genes linked to brain function and behavior, the scientists uncovered tantalizing clues about their beliefs and spiritual practices. For example, they identified genetic markers associated with heightened sensory perception, suggesting that the Windover people may have practiced rituals involving altered states of consciousness, perhaps induced by fasting, meditation, or even the use of psychoactive plants. Further genetic analysis revealed a high prevalence of genes associated with empathy and social bonding, providing further support to previous indications that these people possessed high levels of compassion. These were people deeply attuned to their environment and to one another, their lives interwoven with rituals that connected them to the natural world and to the spirit realm. But the DNA held one final chilling secret, the key to unlocking a mysterious death. As we mentioned before, among the many bodies unearthed at Windover, one stood out: a young man buried without his skull, with an antler spear tip embedded in his pelvic bone. The genetic analysis of the spear tip, though fragmentary, revealed traces of DNA that didn't match the young man's own. This confirmed that the spear had been wielded by someone else, someone whose DNA was distinct from the victim. The scientists now had definitive evidence of foul play. The young man hadn't died of natural causes or in an accidental hunting mishap. He had been murdered, and the missing skull, it now seemed likely that it had been taken as a trophy, or perhaps used in some kind of ritualistic act. This discovery added a dark and unsettling chapter to the story of Windover. It shattered the idyllic image of a peaceful, harmonious community, revealing a hidden undercurrent of violence and conflict. The scientists theorized this particular individual was seen as an outsider, perhaps threatening the established cultural or societal norms of the time. The removal of the skull after death may have been an attempt to sever all ties with the individual, preventing them from ever returning to the community in any form. The findings at Windover sent shockwaves through the archaeological and scientific communities. The discovery of ancient DNA, the insights into family connections and ritualistic practices, and the revelation of a mysterious death, all of it combined to rewrite our understanding of prehistoric life in North America. Windover was no longer just an archaeological site. It was a portal to the past, a place where we could glimpse the lives, the beliefs, and even the deaths of our ancestors. The secrets within the skull had been unlocked, and the world would never be the same.